What's going on, money lovers? Welcome back. So today I want to give some updates on my medicine stock. Company's been on quite a tear. We're finally getting a little pullback today. I've been doing research on this company for the past week since I uploaded my last video. I'll link those in the description below. Check them out if you haven't already. Today, I could talk about this company for over an hour easily. I'm going to try and just condense what I think are some of the most important things happening into maybe 10 minutes or so. So I want to talk about some recent news with the company, notable people who are supporting the company that you may or may not have been aware of. I wasn't for a couple of them, and it's very interesting to me. And all it did was boost my confidence in this company and this sector in general. And the third thing I want to do is kind of compare Mindmed to some of their competitors more in depth. So guys, the video was getting a little bit too long, so I'm going to save the comparison to the other companies in the industry for a part 2 of this video. So if you're just here for the comparison of Mindmed to the other players in the field, I don't want to waste your time. Just look out for that part 2. If not, I have a lot of other very interesting things, I think, to talk about this company that you may be less aware of. In my last video, I briefly, touched on Compass Pathways, which is doing very similar things, but I explained why I think Mindmed is better, and we'll get to that. I'm going to talk about a little bit about Numinous Health and a couple other notable companies in the psychedelic-inspired medicine sphere. May or may not have noticed, the background has changed up. This is the new YouTube studio, and it's a work in progress, but we've got a couple things going here. I'm going to work on it, but I just couldn't wait. I couldn't wait any longer to get this video out. I had to do it today. So, with that being said, so first up, I'm sure you already know Kevin O'Leary. You've heard me talk about him and other people that he is a big proponent, big factor in this company. He was an early investor. Now, he just gave a very interesting interview a few days ago, I believe, may have been yesterday or 2 days ago. He did an interview with J.R. Rand, who is the CEO of Mindmed. And one of the things that he had to say that really resonated with me is something that I keep telling people when they ask me about this company. He said, when you're investing in biotech companies especially, Kevin O'Leary is a big-time investor in biotech. He's got a lot of experience. He said one of the things that he looks for that kind of sets one company apart from the rest is how many trials they have ongoing. So you look at Mindmed compared to their competitors, and as far as the research that I've done goes, Mindmed has the most FDA-approved clinical trials that are currently in progress and ongoing compared to their competitors. They have at least 4 or 5, whereas some of their competitors may only have 1, or they're testing 2 substances or doing 2 different trials. Mindmed, to me, has by far the best position when it comes to that, because you have to look at the probability. What company is most likely to make it through? Obviously, quality comes first, but after quality is quantity. There are better chances that if you are testing 5 drugs on 5 different things, for example, Mindmed is testing the effects of these psychedelic-inspired medicines on anxiety, a different type for ADHD, a different type for opioid addiction and other addictions and alcoholism, etc. We've got 3 or 4 possibilities here versus a company like Compass Pathways, who is geared toward a very specific target where they are only looking to treat patients with treatment-resistant depression, meaning people who have tried 2, 3, maybe more, treatments for depression or antidepressants, and they just haven't gotten good results. That's who Compass Pathways' target is, which severely limits them. And then what happens if they can't get the approval for that depression target group? Mindmed, I like their chances a lot better. There's so many more options for them and things that these substances can be used to treat. So, in summation, Kevin O'Leary, guy who knows his stuff, right? He's saying you want the company that has the most trials because they have the highest probability of success. Now, we all know Kevin O'Leary, probably you already knew he's invested, he's heavily involved in this space. Now, someone I didn't know was as involved in this space, I didn't know was a big supporter of this emerging industry. Tim Ferriss, not sure if you've heard of him. He's the author of some of these famous books like The 4-Hour Workweek, Tribe of Mentors, the list goes on. You may or may not have heard of him before, but let's just say millionaire, celebrity, entrepreneur, has his life together, and guess what he is a big proponent of? If we check out his website here, I was listening to a couple podcasts, the Psychedelic News Hour, New Breakthroughs. He has been a supporter of psychedelic-inspired medicines space, or interested in it at least, for years. This is from 2015, Are Psychedelic Drugs the Next Medical Breakthrough? So I thought that was very interesting. It just, at the end of the day, does it add any value to the company? No, but I just think it's very interesting that prominent people are interested in this space. It's not just a shot in the dark. Like, this is something people have been thinking about for quite some time now. And it's all starting to come to fruition. I think that, these psychedelic-inspired medicines now are kind of entering prime time, so to say, especially coming out of the pandemic. They keep talking about mental health issues are, on the rise. It's worse than ever. And clearly the methods we use to treat them are not really doing that great of a job. So just some food for thought. I'm going to get into Mindmed news. Two other names of note I wanted to just mention here. So Canopy Growth CEO Bruce Linton. This guy is involved in Mindmed. I believe he's on the board. He's definitely invested. He is responsible for a lot of Canopy Growth's great success, and you look at the direction he took Canopy Growth in, and he really set them apart. They were top dog. And also you have co-founder of PayPal, Peter Thiel, is betting big bucks on the psychedelic drug market through an investment in ATAI Life Sciences. Another guy, Michael Elhers, I'm not as familiar with, former Pfizer's executive, is taking an advisory role with Psychedelics Clinical Company. So point here, you look at some of these names, I think these guys, based on, if you look at their track record, they know what they're doing. Probably a good sign. But enough of that. This is all really speculation. Let's get into the news with Mindmed. Significant dip finally today. I've kind of been hoping for a pullback to buy more shares, and getting the itchy fingers. 20%. This is a nice big dip today. It is tempting to buy more here at 350, but I think I'm still going to hold out and wait, because you just look at how far this thing has run up in such a short amount of time. It's still pretty expensive. I use that word relatively because you can't really value this company at this point. I mean, if they succeed, this is going to look like pennies. So if I didn't have a ton of shares already, I would probably buy here, but I'm hoping we get more dips, and then I'll probably keep buying. But I don't know. We'll see. I might nibble a little bit later today. Anyway, so a big reason for the dip today had to do with they just sold $50 million worth of shares in another bought deal. So they're just raising as much money as they can, which is smart, because at the end of the day, all they have is the cash and these research trials, and they need money, millions and millions of dollars, to fund them. So as long as they don't have an actual product to sell, they're going to need to keep raising money to keep the lights on and keep these labs running. So this is what I was just talking about. This was the $50 million bought deal they just did. So it's going to cause dilution, but they're doing what they need to do, and it's smart to do it right now while their shares are expensive. You don't want to see a company doing this when their shares are at rock bottom. You don't want to do this when the shares are at the low. You want to do it when they're at the high. They're getting the most bang for their buck, and it'll hurt investors less. Tesla's been doing this as well. You want to sell shares at the high. So here's another great recent news. Mindmed announced a successful completion of the pre-IND or investigative new drug meeting with the FDA for Project Lucy. So this is basically something about their trials are progressing here. So Mindmed is now prepared to open an investigational new drug in August 2021 with a phase 2B clinical trial for LSD-assisted therapy and anxiety. They continue dose escalation with 18MC, meeting confirmed with the FDA. So this is all good news. Things are moving along. It's what you want to see with a company like this. They're progressing. And I've got to say, for what it's worth, the co-CEO, J.R. Ram, I've listened to the guy talk. I think I'm pretty good at judging the character of a person and when they're really in it. And he seems to be really personally invested in this company. He's talked about, he was diagnosed with ADHD as a kid. He was on all these medicines, and you run into all kinds of issues. So he's personally invested. This is something that he wants to solve on a personal level, as I'm sure there are many other people too who, whether you know someone or relate, through relation or friends with, that struggles with opioids or any of these issues. So I like to think that he really is a genuine person, and I really like what he has to say so far. I don't really get the sense that he's just trying to make a quick buck. I think he's really in this. That being said, who knows? I could be like W. Bush when he met with Putin, and he said he looked him in the eyes and he saw his soul, and maybe I've been duped, but that's just my personal take. I believe in this guy. All right, this video is already getting pretty long, which can be expected. I'm kind of just rambling on here. So I think it'll be better if what I do is, end it here, and I'll make a part 2, and that's where I'll discuss comparing my medicine to the other companies and why I still think Mindmed is the most strongly positioned company. Let me know in the comments if that's something you're interested in hearing about. I'm going to do it either way. So yeah, I hope that kind of rambled on here. I hope you learned something new about the company, because I feel like a lot of people are just, recycling the same news. I hope I brought you some value with this, and, maybe you learned some things you didn't. I definitely did while I've been looking into this company the last few days. So stay tuned for the next video. I'll compare Mindmed to the other companies, and that's it. I promise. Let me know what you think in the comments below if you have any questions. This is Vinny from the Investment Club, and I'll see you next time.